Aloha! Welcome to my channel. I'm JayDreamerZ, and today we're talking about sacred bows, holy arrows, sacred arrows. I just did a video called Tripura. Tripura. It was a legend, a Hindu legend of the god Shiva. Basically, it's a destruction account. The god Shiva was called upon to shoot a holy arrow at these three cities that were lined up celestially. And so that got me thinking about how I've seen this. I've read about this over and over and over. I use comparative mythology to compare all the different myths and legends and religions and stuff of the world to see what is similar across the board, and then to put those puzzle pieces back together to try to repiece our hidden history. It's good to see everybody in the chat room. What's up, everybody? I hope you're ready for an adventure. That's why I like to tell my son, anytime something unexpected happens, it's adventure time. So anytime you tune into my channel, it's an adventure. Welcome to all the new people as well. A lot of new people have been joining. There's a lot of content to go through on my channel. A lot of people are binge watching, which I think is pretty cool. And this is also highly related to a show that I've been watching called Under the Dome, based on the book by Stephen King, which is mind-blowing. After I've done all these videos about all the stuff that I've been talking about, to watch it for the first time, I'm like, no way, that's insane. Oh, it's really cool. Anyways, please reference these images here behind me. We're going to come back to those after I read us some of the ancient legends and the myths that have to do with this sacred arrow being shot up into the air. And I believe personally that it has to do with our cosmology, what our world physically looks like, and the ancient cosmology of how it used to be portrayed, as opposed to, and seemingly in opposition to. It's not really, it can work out either way. It depends on how people arrange these things, but it's kind of in opposition to modern day academic cosmology and how that's presented to us. I have an altogether different cosmology myself. I don't impress that upon others and say that you have to share my worldviews or anything. But if something resonates, then by all means, add that to the collection, your Rolodex of your mind, and the library of your own information, if it's helpful. If not, just leave the rest. All right, cool. So I put up these images here because I wanted to show you. I've brought this up a few times, but there's a lot of new people on my channel that might be unfamiliar with these concepts. The shapes that I'm showing you here represent possible shapes for our world. And these are just small sketches too. Keep in mind, these are two-dimensional, except for this one of the North Pole area in Mount Meru right here, which is taken from above. It's not a real image, just somebody made this. But this is what it would look like if you were to look straight down from above, basically. So let's do a quick recap. Imagine that these red lines right here are a magnetic bowl. So we're looking at it two-dimensionally as if the image has been cut in half, and we're looking at it from a linear view off from the side. Imagine this is our world, and imagine for a moment that our world sits in the bottom of a crater, some type of a crater shape that the world itself, that we call Terra or the Earth, extends beyond the boundaries of our local realm and into others. So imagine that the world is sitting inside of a crater shape, which, by the way, where do I get that? The ancient cosmologies drew our world as being sitting inside of the bottom of a crater. Quite often, if you look at it, if they show you a linear cosmology off from the side, you can see often that they draw these huge mountains that sort of wrap around the world, and then a dome that extends up above those, from the sides of those mountains. So imagine that this is what we have here. The red lines indicate a magnetic bowl, or the electromagnetic current, I should say, that the world uses, right? Now, if there is an entrance down under our world, which would be represented by underneath this dome right here in the middle, that red dome, if there's an entrance that goes down into the inner recesses of our world, as the ancient legends indicate, then scientifically, we would say that it creates what is known as a confinement dome. And I get this information too. A lot of people would like to know where to find this. David Lapointe, or David Lapointe, on YouTube. Check out his channel. He's got a sweet website too, but he's does a lot of plasma physics and electromagnetic physics and stuff. So this is where I'm getting the terms from as far as like a confinement dome, a choke ring, a flip ring, stuff like that. It's excellent information. Highly recommend it. So here is Terra. Here is the crater. And that's probably also connected to other things as well. So this is just a local view, okay? And then in the middle here, it creates a magnetic force field. That's what that red dome is right there in the middle there. It creates a red force field, and our world would be located inside of that red force field. That red force field is the invisible portion of the physical barrier that we call the sky, and the ancients knew as the firmament of the heavens, or the vault of the sky. So there's an electromagnetic and energetic, or some people could say a spiritual aspect that gives birth to the physical barrier that we call the sky. So that's what that is right there. Now keep that in mind, because that shape is going to come up in these studies. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to just remind everybody that we talk about a blue beam. Right now we live under a blue sky right now. So this red dome would actually be blue because that's our sky, and it will turn red after the next apocalyptic cycle. When that happens, a burst of energy from inside of the earth itself, you could call it earth energy, earth spirit, whatever you'd like to, shoots up out of this hole, or out of the inner cavernous recesses of our world, and floods the sky. It fills our world. It fills this entire electromagnetic dome or barrier with energy, and thus it reinvigorates life here in the world that we live in, which we are now severely lacking in. And because it reinvigorates life, it leads us into another epoch, a new age, a golden age, etc. But that beam of light that shoots up, and I believe there are many. I believe that there's one main humongous beam of light that all the world can see from all four corners. And that one stands out far above the rest of them. There are other smaller inner earth recesses that lead to smaller beams of light, or sky beams that reach out and touch the sky. But the one at the North Pole is said to be the biggest opening, and therefore it would give rise to the biggest beam of light. That beam is a holy arrow. It's a sacred arrow. If you haven't seen the new video I just put out called Tripura, definitely check it out. I spent a lot of time editing it and stuff, and it is a great perspective on things from a Hindu perspective, from Hindu mythology. So as you can see here, I also put like these little bow icons so that you can see that the dome of the world creates like a bow, and that there's actually a dome inside of the dome as well, which we'll kind of come back to here in a minute. But before I get too much into this, I just wanted to talk about how this is the sacred bow, and the arrow is the sacred arrow. It's the holy arrow. It's the arrow of light, or arrow of electricity, the electric arrow. It's also known as many other things. Symbolically, these things have been cartoonified throughout our history. So sometimes it's not an arrow, sometimes it's a staff, or sometimes it's a bow, or it's a beam, or it's a pillar, or it's a column, and so on and so forth. And usually it's very holy. And if you look at the root of those things, oftentimes they're glowing or made of light. It provides some kind of a light source. What's up, everybody in the chat? Hey, it's 4 o'clock in Maryland. Michael G says, right on. Good to see everybody showing up in the chat. We got, what did I call? Red Squid X-Files. Man, I was watching your channel earlier. The Burger Prophet, right? That had me smiling for hours this morning, so thank you. All right, cool. Anyways, let's jump into some ancient legends and stories. Check this out. Well, we're going to come back to this guy here in just a second. So this is super interesting. As I read these to you, and as we share these ancient myths and legends about people trying to shoot the moon or shoot the sun, or the moons or the suns, I've come across where they talk about how there used to be some tribes indicate that they believe there used to be 2 moons. And this is really interesting and personal to me, because when I was younger, I had a vivid vision, I'll call it. I don't think it was a dream. I believe it was an actual memory that I had of seeing 2 moons. And to me, it was completely normal. To me, it was, it was so crazy, because I was sharing this memory with my mother when I was younger. And she looked at me like I was crazy. She's like, you must have been dreaming that. I don't remember that. Because in this vision, my mother was there and we were watching the two moons set on the horizon. And she didn't recall. And it made me second guess myself. I'm like, man, did I see that or did I not see that? Was that a dream? I don't feel like and this was like years of thinking that I had this as a memory. It's just that I didn't remember to talk about it because nothing had triggered that memory. But the moment something triggered it, I was like, hey mom, you remember when we saw the two moons? She was like, nah, I do not remember that. But you may have been dreaming that. So either way, a dream, a vision, it lines up with the things that I've been studying and meditating on. So let's look at some of these legends. And this is from a sweet website that was written by, this article was written by a guy named Chao Ming Yi. And it says, a long, long time ago, we used to shoot down many suns. One might immediately associate sun shooting legends with Hou Yi. Hou Yi. Okay, so Hou Yi is a popular legend of, I believe in Japan. Let's go ahead and go over there right now. Hou Yi, Chinese, is a mythological Chinese archer. He was also known as Shen Yi and simply as Yi. He's also typically given the title of Lord Archer. He's sometimes portrayed as a god of archery descended from heaven to aid mankind, which also follows similar tropes that I've come across, where it's always some kind of a hero that is shooting up at the sky in order to benefit mankind in some form. Other times he's portrayed as either simply half divine or fully mortal. His wife, Chang'e, is a lunar deity. So automatically we have a connection with these celestial heroes of old who shoot an arrow up at the sky, and they're related quite often to the moon. And the moon is almost always in these stories. Now, in this particular story, this is a very famous Chinese story. In Chinese mythology, there were 10 suns. So that's really Chinese history that's just no longer approved by their mainstream academics. So in ancient China, they believed that they once had 10 suns that streaked across the sky. Initially, the 10 suns would cross the sky one by one. But one day, all 10 suns came out at once, scorching the earth. It's another prophecy too. I do want to throw that out there. And I think that it's popped up enough in our collective subconscious that it's made its way into our mainstream media and movies and televisions and stuff that the sun is going to scorch the earth one day. Even in modern academics, they say it's inevitable. One day the sun will blow up in size and it'll take in the inner three orbits of Mercury, Venus, and Earth, destroying the Earth in the process. It's just that science or mainstream academics teaches that that won't happen for billions and billions of years. So basically they're saying you don't have to worry about it. I am saying I worry about it. It's a very real worry that I have, that there's this huge giant burning focal point up there in the sky. And all these legends talk about how unpredictable it can be and how in the past it has burned the Earth and how in the past it has gone in different directions and stuff. So yes, it's very much a real concern of mine, I would say. Let's go on. Hou Yi was tasked by the mythical king Yao to rein in the suns. Hou Yi first tried to reason with the suns. When that didn't work, he pretended to shoot at them with his bow to intimidate them. When the suns again refused to heed Hou Yi's warnings, he began to shoot at them one by one. As each one fell, they turned into three-legged ravens. Finally, one sun was left, and King Yao, as well as the sun's mother, Jihe, asked for him to be spared for the prosperity of man. In other variants, the last arrow was stolen by either a brave boy or King Yao himself, who realized that the land requires a sun. Pardon me. Okay, so in this mythic legend in China, we have the legend that a long time ago there was more than one sun, right? Now, as we read these other stories, you're going to find out that the moon used to be considered a sun, but the moon was shot, and the moon, or the sun, when it was a sun, died. And what we see up there is a dead sun, or a sun that is not as bright as it used to be, basically. All right, let's jump back into some of these stories here. So he says, one might immediately associate sun shooting legends with Hao Yi, who we just went over. But did you know that on this plentiful island, there are various sun shooting legends, and that some of them are even more exciting than Hao Yi's? And the island that they're talking about is Taiwan, it looks like. Yes. So it says here there are various legends within Taiwan's indigenous stories of sun shooting, which can be classified into several types. And hello to everybody in the chat. I see everyone saying hi. One type of legend goes that once there were two suns in the sky, and people were suffering as a result. Now, let's take a quick time out. I would like to give my input on this multiple suns, multiple moons thing that happens. And this happens to this day. People see, on occasion, double moons, double suns, sometimes more than that. I believe that everything has to do with optics, how light is refracted and how light comes to focal points and is distributed and redistributed up there in the heavens. As our living conditions change, or even our local conditions in our atmosphere, as will what we see in the sky. Now, the ultimate atmospheric change comes when the world depressurizes, and that causes all types of dominoes to be tipped over subsequently, right? So there will be a huge change in our atmosphere in the near future. As has been the cycle. Okay, there's nothing new under the sun. When that happens, what we will find out is that these legends will return. These legends will come back. Everything happens in cycles and loops and vortices, vortexes and swirling and spirals. And so does what happens to us in this world. It happens time and time again, over and over and over. And much of it gets lost or forgotten about. We suffer worldwide amnesia. People wake up after the apocalypse not remembering much, I would say. So the stories make it through. The legends make it through. And some people design stories or design the truth in story form purposefully because it's one of the best ways to remember something, right? Especially if you want to pass it on over a long period of time. All right, coming back to our story here, it says, one type of legend goes that there were once two suns in the sky, and people were suffering as a result. As a solution, brave men from different communities were sent to shoot down one of the suns. I just realized you guys can't really read along. Maybe this will help. I don't know. Well, we'll fix it later. I'll just keep on reading. All right, so basically there's two suns. The world was too hot, and it was decided to shoot down one of the suns to cool off the world. The people went on long sun expeditions, and the community's warriors undertook the expedition with different causes according to the different stories. Let's get into story number one, the father and son's sun expedition. In an ancient Atayal legend, there were two suns in the sky, and there was no moon. Remember? Thus, there was no cycle of day and night. The earth was extremely hot, and living things had difficulty surviving. After much discussion, the community member people agreed that one of the suns should be shot down, or that the suns would cause a global drought. 3 brave men were dispatched to the east for the mission, armed with bows, arrows, and knives. The expedition required a long trip to a faraway kingdom, which is in quotes, which seemed like an endless journey. I'll tell you right now, my personal thoughts on that so far is that the faraway kingdom is the North Pole. It's quite often that people make this trek, this journey to the North Pole, because it's the place that is considered a safe haven during the apocalypse. And especially during the time where that light of the world is shining. Also, that's the place that you want to be. After listening to the report, the community decided to send another 3 brave men equipped with dried foods and a weapon. They also carried 1 baby boy. With the fate of the whole community in their hands, these 3 brave men and 3 baby boys went straight to the east, where they threw seeds of the oranges that they ate along their way as markers for their return journey. Time went by as they traveled, and the second dispatched group met with the first one, and they found that they had become white-haired old men. The team continued their journey. The elderly in the first and second groups passed away one after one, and the 3 grown-ups continued, according to the will of their fathers, to continue the journey. Finally, they arrived at the residence of the sons. Now, also in my research so far, reading up on ancient myths and legends, when they talk about the sun in the times of old, or the moon, they have a place of origin, a common place of origin, which is usually said to be some sort of a portal in the sky, or an entrance, or a doorway, or a hallway, or a gate, or some sort of something up there in the sky, which is typically right above, right at the North Pole where the North Star is. Keep that in mind. They all pulled the bows to shoot the unwanted sun, and not surprisingly, it was not affected at all. Then they tried a secret weapon that was taught to them by the community elders, and they placed a wuzadasi of a wood rat onto the arrow head to shoot the sun. According to the legend, the sun was successfully shot down and oozed with hot blood from the sky. Also very interesting that they have this hot blood that oozes out of the sun and burns people. And as it did so, the head of the one of the men also poured with blood and lost his life. The sun that was shut down then turned into a white moon, and the blood drops became stars. Since then, there have been days and nights when people no longer suffer with only hot days. So right now we live in the time of coldness. The world is very cold. We do have a focal point that we call the sun that goes around that warms things up a little bit. I believe that that focal point is getting hotter and brighter, and possibly even smaller. But I believe it's getting hotter and brighter. And in turn, its sister form that we call the moon is also getting brighter. And pretty soon they'll go into the blue phase because they'll get so bright and they'll turn blue. All right, here's another story. The Driftwood Sun Death God and the Baby Sun Expedition. Let me make this bigger. I like everyone to be able to read along. Oh, you know what? I can make it bigger. Hold on. One moment. Let me fix it for everybody. This one? Yes. All right, cool. Make this we'll scooch this out a bit. There we go. And then we'll scooch it up here. That'll at least be a little easier to read, even though I'm kind of in the way. All right, let's press on. Unlike the legend of the Atayal fathers and sons who had worked together with great effort, the Sao people have a different but equally mysterious sun-shooting legend. Once upon a time, there was an orphan girl who had no one to help her hunt, and she had no choice but to go fishing with a net by the river. She did not catch any fish, but instead caught a stick of driftwood. She put the stick in her pants pocket and comforted herself with the fact that at least she had caught something. After returning home, she found that her driftwood had disappeared and that she had become pregnant. The baby was named Nebalum Uji, and this so-called driftwood son was smart and had curious abilities. When he raised his hand to point to a bird, the bird died. When he pointed to a deer, the deer died. Even when he used a bow and an arrow to shoot at the footprints of animals, these animals mysteriously died. People in the community were not scared of his ability, however, but instead laughed at his toy like a weapon. Because of this, the god of death, Nebala Muji, was furious and decided to shoot the sun down. During this time, in the sky, there were also 2 suns. And Nebala Muji took his friend with him for the shooting expedition. When they finally reached their destination, they hid at the place where the sun rests. That's another allusion to the home of the sun, the starting place, the real location of what we call the sun, or the real location of what we call the moon. When one of the suns appeared, Nebala Muji told his friend, "When I fire the arrow, you have to jump into the water with me." Eventually, the sun was shot and oozed with hot, fresh blood. Nebala Muji quickly jumped out into the water, but due to hesitation, his friend was splashed with the blood of the sun and was killed. When the other son discovered that his brother had been mysteriously shot, he was scared into hiding. The earth turned dark. The community members were scared and offered sacrifices to the sun. After some time, the sun finally appeared but returned to the west after a while, thus creating days and nights. So another thing we see is that somebody shoots the sun, they wound it, and there's this blood that pours out of the sun. The sun doesn't really pour out human blood, right? So it's a personification, and it's a cartoonification of the things that they saw at the time. Wherever the sun was, there was this sacred arrow that went up, appeared to hit it, and then you have this red, basically it's plasma, okay? I'm not saying it's plasma, but it's plasma, okay? This plasma shoots out of the sun up there in the sky. And then they jump into the water so that they don't get burned. The next story says the angry father shoots down the sun for his son, the promise between the moon and Bunun. The sun-shooting legend of the Bunun people is about the revenge of an angry father for his son. A long went into the field to work every day at the time when the two suns brought the most severe heat. One day, they brought their little son to the field, and while they worked, but because the baby could not put up with the hot sun, he cried out loud, and the mother used flaxseed to clothe the baby, flaxseed leaf, but the leaf was dried out by the two sons and not comfortable. The couple had to take turns to carry the baby with a strap, but shortly the baby stopped crying. After they finished their work, the couple went to attend to their baby and found to their disbelief that it had become a lizard. The sad father brought his eldest son to help him shoot down the suns finally. He shot into the eye of the sun. So this sun, and keep in mind, when we use the word sun, okay, let's try not to apply just only what we understand in the modern age. In the modern age, we hear the sun and we automatically can only think, we can only focus on what we have been taught by the media to focus on, that there is only one sun and that there is only that sun up there. And so that is the sun that people think about when we read these stories. I would advise you, and I would say that it might be helpful, right, for your imagination so that we can think of alternatives, not to think of that sun, but there are other lights in the skies, especially in the pre-flood world, right? The antediluvian age had all sorts of myths and legends about huge other suns that are seen in the sky, basically, not just ours. Ours is the leftover sun. It's the final one. And the reason I brought that up is because they say that they shot the sun in the eye. Our sun today, that skylight that goes around our realm, doesn't have an eye. If you look up at it, it is an eye. It's just one huge circle, essentially, right? But it needs another smaller circle inside of it in order to be shot in the eye. That is where we get the term bull's eye from, because of that arrow shooting the cosmic bull in the eye. All right, so let's get back to where we were. He shot the sun in the eye. The sun was hurt and wanted to kill the father, but it changed its mind after hearing that he had lost his son. It decided to let the father and the son leave and to promise that there will only be one son. The son that had been shot in the eye gave some seeds to the father and to the son and told them that it will soon turn into a moon, and that if they follow the change of the moon's shape when planting the seeds, a harvest will come. Because of this arrangement with the moon, the Bunun people conduct their millet cultivation, seeding, plantation, weeding, harvest, and warehousing at different times in the lunar calendar. This is also, I believe, another reason why we have a lunar calendar as opposed to a solar calendar, because they would track both of the suns, or however many of the suns that they had at the time, across the sky. They would chart their movements. They would time how long they take. They did that with both of them. Even whenever one of them changed and turned into what we call the moon, they continued to track it. Sun shooting. We do not need weapons to scare the sun. Let's read about this. Compared to the aforementioned legends, in which the main characters tried very hard to shoot down the sun, the Paiwan sun shooting legend is more casual and accidental. The story goes that once there were two suns that sat low in the sky. That's another thing too, is the position, right? Whenever we go through the Red Sky event, the the world depressurizes. And because of that depressurization, it affects the atmosphere. Because it affects the atmosphere so severely and direly, it affects how far away things appear to us. Just like if you were to focus on binoculars or to focus in or out on a telescope, it's the same thing whenever we change the conditions of the sky. We're changing the focus of what we see out there. So it appears that during the red sky event, the sky is like zoomed in. So everything looks like space is going to fall on top of us, basically. Okay. It looks like the cosmos have immediately rushed in just above our world. Like you could jump up and land in some other place. However, whenever the electromagnetics of our world go into a reversal, the sky is being seen as pushing back or retreating back into the heavens. And there are many myths and legends that refer to that concept as well. All right, 2 suns that sat low in the sky. Thus, the world had no nights and was very hot. Because there was no nighttime, all community members had to work without any rest. That's another thing too. After the apocalypse, I don't believe that people will rest. I don't believe that people, there's always anomalies and exceptions, but I believe that people are going to be full of energy. They'll be energized and they'll have no need for sleep for the most part. One day, when pounding millet, the Tokenivon accidentally let a wooden pestle bash into the sky, knocking one of the suns down. In doing so, the sky was also elevated. There you go. Boom. And there began the nighttime. So when the sky was elevated, that's when nighttime was introduced. Finally, people could sleep. Yes, that's the world that we live in today. People have to sleep because they've taken, the energy is being drained out of our world and thus out of our souls and thus out of everything. So everything is very low power right now. We're using reserves at the moment. In addition to the Paiwan people, the Tao people also have its own similar sun shooting legend. There were once 2 suns in the sky. Here we go. Another 2 sun illusion. And because of their super strong energy, people did not need fire to cook. They only needed to put food under the suns and everything was done. One day, a couple from the Jimorod village, the red-headed village, brought their child to the mountain. I like how they say the mountain. They built a canopy to shield their kid from the sun and went to work in the field with a peaceful mind, while they cooked their food with the sun's rays. However, although their food was well cooked, their kid was killed due to the sun's strong rays. They were devastated. They hated the sun, and they point their fingers to one of the suns. They cursed and said, "You go to hell. You burned my son. Now you must disappear." The cursed sun was scared off and lost its heat and its glare before passing away. Since then, there has only been one sun in the sky. So that's another thing too, where they talk about how people didn't used to need to cook, right? There was no need to cook food. That's because it was the Garden of Paradise, right? That's the state that we return to. And when that happens, we eat off of the trees, right? Basically, you just go in. If you're hungry, you just reach up, grab some food and start eating. There's no need to cook anything in the world to come. Another side of sun shooting legends, the relationship between the sun and the moon. Now, this is where we start sliding off into shooting the moon and the moon theory. And what is the moon? And why are the sun and the moon so closely related? Why is it that the sun and the moon are the exact same size, okay, in the sky? Why is it that the sun and the moon follow the exact same path and move in the exact same direction? This is kind of rhetorical. I'm not really asking because I don't really want to hear any academic type of answers. I don't want to hear any mainstream answers. I've already learned those. I've mastered those. I memorized those. I understand how they work in academics, but I am not an academic. I'm a dreamer. So, there is a good reason, a very simple explanation, why the sun and the moon are the exact same size, why the sun and the moon are said to be related to one another, why the sun and the moon follow the exact same path, etc. It's a really simple explanation. Another side of sun shooting legends. In the aforementioned legends, the sun, was turned into the moon after it lost its energy and passed away. So the sun turned into the moon, or a sun turned into the moon. But in the legends of the Puyuma and the Ami people, the sun and the moon are neither siblings or husband and wife. During a great flood, that should give you a good time frame of when we're talking about, everything was covered with water, including the sun and the moon in the sky. In the end, there were just 5 siblings riding on a hibiscus flower to the sea. Because it was so dark, the siblings decided to put one man and one woman into the sky to become objects that could provide light. The man became the sun, and the woman became the moon, and they took turns to shine on the earth at day and at night. So the moon and the sun are often seen as positive and negative, respectively, but those roles often flip. And it makes sense that they would flip. Sometimes the male energy comes from the moon. Sometimes the female energy comes from the sun. I believe that these are echoes of our past, when our electromagnetics of our entire world flips. When this happens, the world literally turns on its head upside down, okay? That's why many of you feel like the world is upside down. That's why many of you feel like the opposite of everything is true, because we live in an opposite environment. Everything energetically is the opposite of what it once was. Even the North Pole itself is really the South Pole, yet we continue to call it the North Pole. You know what I mean? That's just one example. Everything's all reversed these days. All right, so the man became the sun, the woman became the moon. They took turns shining on the earth. In the Ami legend, the sun is female and reflects their matriarchal society. Right? The dominant energy is female. Right now, the dominant energy is male. We are heading into a time where a queen will be crowned instead of a king. We will have more of we will lean more towards a matriarchy instead of a patriarchy. I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm just saying that's how the law of balance works in nature. Now, the good news is between the extremes, which is the extreme male-dominated energy right now. Hamed, hey, thank you. We live in an extreme environment right now, male-dominated energy. At the opposite end of the spectrum, just before the next apocalypse, not the one that's coming, but the one after that, will be the extreme female. That's when you will have a matriarchy and a woman will be in charge, and goddess worship will be worldwide. Instead of God worship and male energy, it'll be goddess worship and female energy. In between that is the apocalyptic event. In between that is a neutral point. In between that is the time of peace, or the golden age, where you have more balance between the two. So sometimes we get these echoes from when the world was female dominated, energetically speaking, and also physically, because the physical follows the energetic, right? In ancient times, the sun and the moon were husband and wife, related to one another, the same family. They have okay, this is so insane. The sun, as the wife, is independent and outgoing. So the moon decided to leave the sun in order to pursue a better relationship. Nice, good job. After the leaving of the moon, the sun began to look for her own happiness. This is also the story of Lilith and Adam, if you're familiar with that one. That goes back before Adam and Eve. One day, she saw the slender bamboo named Pro and found him very attractive. The sun came down from the sky to pursue Pro, which is a stalk of bamboo, which is a beam or a column and that type of symbolism, and wished to marry him. But Pro did not like the personalities of the sun and rejected her, and the sun went back to the sky with regret. So this is the doomed love between two entities that cannot meet. They're not allowed to meet. They're not allowed to stay together, I should say. They're always pulled apart, right? Or one is seen as being in love with the other and the other one doesn't like them. After leaving the sun, the moon felt very lonely and came down to the earth to marry a bamboo with fewer leaves named Didadu. Okay, so the same thing's happening. Now it's the moon. The moon comes down and wants to marry this stalk, this beam of light that's symbolically bamboo. But this wife was still very outgoing and passionate. The moon then decided to leave her too and went back to the sky. Later, Didadu found that she still loved the moon and tried very hard to climb up in order to make up with the moon. The sky, however, was too high, and Didadu could not climb high enough. Since then, the sun and the moon have never got together, and the bamboo sometimes grows high into the sky, while at other times it lays low whispering. I want to point this part out. Since then, the sun and the moon have never got together. Okay, let's assume that's true. Let's just give it the benefit of the doubt. And let's ask ourselves a question that I love to ask myself. What are the implications? If the sun and the moon truly never got back together, what are the implications? Well, one of those is that an eclipse is not what we're told it is, right? Where the moon passes in front of the sun or whatever. Have you ever seen the moon actually pass in front of the sun? I haven't. I've seen eclipses. I've seen the moon out in the daytime and it's not disappearing because of the sunlight or anything. I have never seen the moon. Now, this should be mind-blowing because it's so simple, all right? But imagine in your mind the moon, full moon during the day. I know it's weird to see it during the day. I already know. That's a whole video. But it can be out during the day. So imagine that same moon that you have seen during the daytime and the sun right there, like slowly, like, people would be watching that. They would be watching the moon get closer and closer and closer to the sun, but we don't. We don't see that. All you see during a lunar eclipse is the sun. And then it just gets dark. And they're like, oh yeah, that's the moon. The question is, where was the moon right before that? It should have been right there in the sky. It should be visible. Can't tell me that you can't see the moon during the daytime. Ah, man. See, now I'm getting in my feelings about academics. All right, let's move on. Hold on, let me jump in the chat. Managed Downside is in the chat and says, JayDreamerZ, the $1 bill shows the eagle as the squatter man. Yes, absolutely. And it's actually more accurately the phoenix. But that's a good call. All right. Let's see. When others shut the sun down, we save it. In addition to the common sun-shooting legends, there are other mythologies handed down by the Tao people. They did not shoot the sun down, but instead saved it along with the moon. After I'm done reading these presentations, I'm going to show you on my little diagram a theory that I have as to the origin of both the sun and the moon, if you want to stay tuned for that. Once upon a time, when there was a young couple, the man was called Brother Dajian, and the woman was called Sister Shwidu. They made a living by fishing. One day, the sky and the earth were shaking. Okay, let's stop right there. Time out. I love it when it says that the sky was shaking. All right, it gives reference to the sky shaking throughout many religious texts that I've gone over, and that is an interesting thing to me. That they say that in the exact same way, and at the same time that the earth is shaking, that the sky itself will also shake. If we go back to our ancient cosmological views of the earth, the sky and the earth are connected. So when one shakes, the other shakes. Physically shaking. That's not metaphor. It's not just a grand expression of, oh my God, the earth was shaking so much, so it looked to them like the sky was shaking too because they're stupid and they think that because they're moving, the sky's also moving because their vision is moving. You know what I mean? Like, I don't buy that. I do buy that the earth and the sky are connected. One day the sky and the earth were shaking, and the sun and the moon disappeared. This is the apocalypse. All of these are memoirs of the apocalypse, things that we have forgotten, and that's why I feel it's important for me to go over them, even if none of my viewers subscribe or believe in the things that I'm sharing with you or whatever. I do this for me, really. I want this remembered. This is important to me, and so I share it with you. So, while there was this worldwide earthquake happening, the sun and the moon disappeared. This will happen again. All of these things, all of these legends, this is why it's important. You're learning about the future right now, not hearing about the past. I mean, you are doing both, actually. But the exciting thing is, instead of just going, oh, that happened a long time ago. Oh, that's just in the past. If you start connecting the past with the future, all of a sudden the past becomes detrimental to surviving the future and to making it into the future and prophecy and other things. The world became dark and plants could not grow. One of the reasons I believe that plants cannot grow immediately after the apocalypse is that, one, it takes time for that earth energy to spread out and refill the world. Okay, so it takes a certain amount of time. I believe the ancient cultures counted how much time it took before the Holy Spirit was breathed onto the earth and our energy was given back to us. Another thing is that worldwide earthquakes cause liquefaction, right? All of the seeds and all of the plants and everything are sinking down into the mud while new things are being brought up. So the world becomes a swampy, boggy mess for a time until it dries out. And then all of a sudden it's more of a desert, a huge desert world, especially when the oceans are removed. The world became dark and plants could not grow. People were suffering, and thus this young couple decided to search for the sun and the moon. Many people have gone on a search for the sun and the moon, right? After a long journey, they found a cave. Interesting. At the entrance to the cave, an old woman told them that the sun and the moon were eaten by two evil dragons, and that she alone was forced to cook for them day and night. The two evil dragons were scared of nothing but the gold axe and scissors, which were at the foot of Ali Mountain. Ali means my God, too, just so you know that, or my mighty one, or my leader. It's the same as El, basically. Eli, right? Ali. Thus, the couple went to Ali Mountain with a spatula. And okay, hold on. Let me take it seriously. The couple went to Ali Mountain with a spatula and fire fork, which were given to them by the old woman to dig out the gold axe and scissors. Reminds me of this video game I used to play called Golden Axe. Once they had dug them out, they killed the evil dragons and sent the sun and the moon back to the sky. They ate the eyes of the evil dragons, which later turned into two high mountains. Now listen to this. Pay special attention. Whenever they in the ancient world, when they write something down as being lofty or high, when it's already known to be lofty or known to be high up, that means it's exceedingly high, like abnormally high. Okay? So two abnormally high mountains, from which grew a palm tree for the sun and the moon to hold the sky. So we've got these two exceedingly high mountains way high up, which also Mount Meru is being seen as the most exceedingly high mountain, right? So it follows suit that the mountains near Mount Meru would also be, exceedingly tall. And out of the tops of those two exceedingly tall mountains grew palm trees. These are other beams of light, just so you know. That held up the sky. Many legends abound about how once when the sky was too low and the people felt like the sky was falling and it was going to crush them and it was going to land on them and all of the heavens were coming down and meeting with the earth, that there was some sort of trees that grew to prop it up, or people erected poles and pushed the sky up further and further. Legends abound. These two mountains that safeguard the sun and the moon. So let's think about the location real quick. Two mountains safeguard the sun and the moon, right? So the sun and the moon's origin, their home, their house, is somewhere between two mountains, the legends say. These two mountains that safeguard the sun and the moon, which are located on the two sides of Sun-Moon Lake, appropriately, if you know where that is, are now known as the Dajian and Shuidu Mountain. Each fall, the Tao people hold a ball and dances like the couple holding the sun and the moon. Misty World says, JayDreamerZ, I have a wrench. Thank you. I'm very proud of my first one. You're very welcome. The reason I give out wrenches is because I watch my own live streams when I'm done. And I pay attention to all of you. I pay attention to who's being kind, who's being helpful, and, who is doing it often. And I will hand out wrenches to those people without even asking. So you're very welcome. It's like a little trophy from me to you. Let's continue on. If you're just joining us, by the way, we're talking about the sun and the moon and shooting the sun and the moon and why these legends talk about. And it's not just the ones I'm reading. These are all legends from a limited area in our world. These legends are worldwide. There are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of legends that include some aspect or form of the same ones that we're reading now, where an arrow, a sacred arrow, a special arrow, a saved arrow, a forgotten arrow, you know what I mean? Whatever it may be, usually an arrow of light or power is shot at some sort of threat or beast or monster, or the place where the sun is, or the place where the moon is, or the place where they reside more specifically. The indigenous legends of sun shooting demonstrate the impact of the power of nature on life and reflect the cosmic concepts of indigenous peoples that everything has life. Imagine that. How nice and simple. Everything has life. Isn't that nice? I just like to see that. The indigenous peoples thought that everything had life. We're so much more advanced than they are. They clearly don't understand. You know what I mean? Oh, geez. So, just like people, when the sun was shot, it bled. The sun, as the source of energy, will therefore burn people to death with its blood. In the Hao Yi legend that we are more familiar with, the ones that we started off with, where there was 10 suns and they were shot down one by one, or 9 of them were, the moon and the stars were not mentioned. The indigenous legends are filled with imagination and are logically presented. At the same time, the difficulty of the sun expedition was enhanced to teach later generations about the hardworking and persistent spirit of their ancestors. The legends of the sun shooting told by different people are all based on the idea of 2 suns, and the plots also help us to further understand the worship rituals and lifestyles of indigenous peoples. All right, cool. So let's go back to my little picture here. Now I would like to do some screen sharing. Let me actually make this a bit bigger so it's easier to see. I like to doodle my ideas as I research. I used to use my whiteboard. Oops. Wait a minute. I used to use my whiteboard, but then I figured out how to draw on the computer, and so I do that often now. All right, cool. Let's go here, and let's go here for pow. And I'm just going to make this image nice and big because it's the one I want to go off of to present this theory. Okie dokie, I'll just put that right behind me. That looks big enough. Okay, cool. So let's start with the yellow image here. This part. Now, imagine, I'm not saying this is correct. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's 100% or real or true or accurate or fact or anything like that. I'm saying this is in my imagination based on my research and my path so far, okay? So let's imagine that this is Terra, that this is land, and our local piece of Terra or land inside of this bubble, inside of this dome, is called the Earth. So here we are. Essentially, it opens up in the middle. It's probably not that big. That's humongous. But it opens up in the middle and it leads to the inner recesses or the hollow portions of Terra, or the hollow portions directly under our world, which we would consider to be the hollow recesses of the Earth. Now, because of the shape that surrounds our local region, being in the bottom of this crater area, if this is electromagnetically charged as a bowl shape with a hole in the middle, then going back up here to David LaPointe's diagram, which, by the way, he's unaffiliated with anything that I talk about. He doesn't probably even know who I am, so it's not like he believes any of my views or anything like that, but I believe that his information is very valuable. I find it to be. All right, so let's check out this diagram here. Right? So here we would be in the very bottom of like a deeper looking canyon or cave or whatever, right? Sorry, I'm trying to figure out how to make it move. Sorry, one moment. This is weird. All right, hold on. Sorry, one sec. I didn't mean to do that. Let's make this bigger. Dang, this is crazy. All right, well, anyways, I'll leave it right there just so I can move forward. All right, so here's Terra. Terra extends upward because we're living in one of the craters, right? In one of the divots of the land of Terra, which is where many places that are habitable are formed for beings like us. Why? Because its very shape by nature creates a protective barrier, an electromagnetic dome, known as the confinement dome. It confines things within and keeps things out. That dome acts as a protective barrier because there's much electromagnetics out there in the heavens that would love to ground themselves to our world, causing a permanent electrical storm all of the time. So our electromagnetic dome protects us from those things because it pushes plasma away. Plasma is repelled by strong electromagnetic force or magnetic force, right? Now, if you turn this image sideways like this one, as you can see, it's no stretch of the imagination to see the bow shape that is existing here. Now, see, how do I move that up? I don't know. I'm just going to leave it alone. Leave it alone. All right, let go. Dang, this computer's not enjoying my commands. All right, anyways, I'm so sorry. All right, so let's go back here. So here's our crater, the yellow portion, okay? Here's our electromagnetic dome, or our magnetic barrier that keeps out the plasma and other things that live out there in the heavens. And it's because of the shape that our dome or our sky is created. Okay. So let's take a look at that shape here and let's zoom in. Now, if you can see, I have put another dome right here in the middle in the shape of a bow and arrow. Hey, Jen, welcome. So this would represent the center of our world. This would represent where the North Pole is in our world. Why would there be another dome at the North Pole underneath our grand dome, our larger dome of the sky? Let's go back to that image of the North Pole. This one right here. Let's see. All right, cool. So here is an image of the North Pole, the land at the North Pole. As you can see, it's sitting in a crater. That the entire land at the North Pole is circular in shape because it is, in fact, a crater. And that is where the Garden of Eden was said to have rested, with 4 rivers subsequently coming out of the middle of it. Now, if this crater shape also is electromagnetically charged, as I suppose that it is, it would stand to reason that it would contain its own dome or its own electromagnetic barrier, right? That protects the holy mountain, that protects Mount Meru, acting as the Ark of the Covenant, or the Arch, or the electromagnetic arc, right? So there should be a little protective dome over this area, at least when there is a strong electrical charge running through it. Right now, I'm not so sure if that electrical charge would be there because all the energy is going down into the earth and not coming out of it. So it very well may be that that dome is no longer there right now, which means if you can get there, you would be able to have access. Chad, hey, welcome, Chad. All right, cool. So if this one has a little dome around it, right? And then we go back to our image here of our world and we zoom in. That would be this bow. Now, this is the bow of all of these heroic characters. This is the bow that they're speaking of, not the sky itself, but this is the bow that shoots straight up to hit the moon. Now, where is the moon in this picture? Let me go ahead and draw. Bear with me. My computer is frozen. So weird. Okay, now, before I show you where the origin or the home of the sun and the moon are, let's back out and recap real quick. We have determined or talked about the idea and the possibility that this shape right here, this magnetic bowl shape, which acts as a Terra crater, we could call it, right? That this is responsible for the bubble that is made inside of it of force, of magnetic energy. All right, so let me show you what I mean here. We could take this one. I think I can move this one. We could take this one and we can superimpose it right over here. And as you can see, it fits perfectly. You know, things are not drawn to scale or whatnot, so you have to excuse that. But that is the example that I make for the creation of our dome. Why is that? Because at first, there is no physical barrier. At first, everything starts off spiritual. Everything starts off electromagnetic in nature, you could say. So we have a magnetic invisible barrier that goes up. The plasma is repelled by that barrier, smashing into it and creating water as a byproduct. It creates a liquid byproduct. And that liquid instantly freezes and gives you a physical dome that conforms to the shape of the water. I mean, conforms to the shape of the electromagnetic confinement dome, giving you an ice dome, right? Solid, pure ice. That's the exact same as glass, basically, because it would not have any impurities. So now you have an ice dome, you have an ice barrier that is created because the plasma smashes into the magnetic field. So let's remove this and let's talk about the plasma apocalypse. The plasma apocalypse happens whenever the world depressurizes. It depressurizes because it is now contained and it will be uncontained. It will burst. The containment field will go down and the container will explode. Where will it explode? All of that energy is going to go to the apex, which is the top, which is right here. All of the weight of our atmosphere is being held in right now by a magnetic force. All of those gases that are repelled by a strong magnetic current are being pushed back in at us, causing pressure in our world to increase. However, one day, that barrier will go down. Let's see if I can do that. All right, boom. So that will cause a hole in the sky to open up, okay? Right above the North Pole, right at the North Star, basically. A hole in the sky opens up, all of our oxygen and everything gets sucked out, all the air gets sucked out, well, not all of it, but much of it, right? Lots of it gets sucked out and it depressurizes the world. Now we have a connection. Now there is no separation between the heavens and the earth. And then we've got the blue beam afterwards that shoots up from the inner recesses of the earth. The inner earth energy shoots up and it goes all the way up. Now, when that energy shoots up, that's an indicator that everything has reversed and that electromagnetic field has gone back up. Okay? When the electromagnetic field goes back up, remember we said plasma is repelled by that field. So that plasma will hit the dome from the inside and it will recreate and fix the damaged portions of the dome. So follow me here. What we're going to do is we're going to take this image right here. We're going to flip this upside down. We're going to apply the same principles as what created our sky to the sky itself, because now we have the inverted form of this right here. Same thing, but it's upside down. It's a bowl shape, it's electromagnetic in nature, and there's a hole in the middle. So whenever we zoom in on that, if I can do it, when we superimpose this, let me go ahead and actually put this on top here. All right, so if we superimpose this, what we can infer is that logically it would have its own magnetic dome right there in the center, right at the middle of the world in the sky. Why is that important? Pardon me. It's important because when this blue plasma hits that electromagnetic dome, it's not going into it. It's not going to go through it. It's not going to go past it. It's going to conform to its shape from the inside, and it will wrap around, creating a dome under the dome. And it will split off into that Y shape that we have all studied so much, which is the VOV, or the nail of the world, right? The flux capacitor, etc. So it will now conform to that shape, and that water will freeze. And what that means is that directly above the North Pole, we possibly have, let's see, let's turn this one upside down as a reference point. We have this right here in our sky now. And that this dome up here has been covered and frozen, and that it becomes the moon, basically. that this right here becomes the moon. It becomes like the chandelier of our world. Now what we have to do is apply optics to this. If we think about the question, what are the implications, right? What's next? How would light act under these conditions? And so instead of light, so imagine that light comes from the plasma outside of our world, outside of the heavens, right? So the light is spiraling down, hits the dome, boom. The plasma hits the dome, I should say. The plasma is repelled, wraps around the dome, continuing to spiral. But the light does not. The light passes through the ice, and it hits the dome, redirects itself, and causes a focal point. That focal point is daytime. I'm just kind of drawing just to give you an example. Okay, cool. So now imagine this. At the top, up here is a crater at the very top. There's just a crater up there. Eyes wide open. Hey, good to see you. There's a crater. So what happens when that light hits this dome and is refracted? Well, it would project instead of creating a focal point, right? It would hit that dome and it would project. What it projects is an image of itself onto the night sky. Or possibly waters that are up there floating around. I'm not sure. But it makes a projection of itself, which is the moon. The focal point where all of those rays meet is where the sun is. The projection is that of the moon. Right? So this right here would be considered the house of the sun or the house of the moon. This dome, this inner dome, is also what bursts and breaks open. Which means that if this is the actual spot, the physical spot where the moon is projected from, because the moon that we see in the sky is a projection, it's light, it's plasma, but there is a physical representation of its origin, of where that light is coming from, right? So if this is the physical actual moon that does not move, that always stays in place, the light, the image moves because the plasma above is circling and spiraling around. And that's why you see the sun spiraling around the world and the moon spiraling around the world and the stars spiraling around the world and everything spiraling around the world. Because that's what the plasma above is doing. It is in a vortex spiraling around our dome. When the world depressurizes, this dome breaks. Let's get rid of that. Yeah. So when the world depressurizes, that dome breaks open. And thus, the image that we see, the projection of the inner earth, the inner dome, I don't know what to call it yet. We see it breaking up there in the sky. We see that light, the projection, breaking in half or separating or opening or a hole opening up inside of it. Which actually happened in Islamic tradition. In Islamic tradition, the Prophet Muhammad was arguing with some non-believers about the power of Allah, and they didn't believe him. And he said, "Ask for a sign. I'll show you." They said, "Okay, split the moon." And immediately the moon split. So they dropped down to their knees, as is appropriate when the apocalypse happens. Many people will drop down to their knees. Many of you will pass out. It will be seen as bowing in the presence of something greater. And the moon will split. And it has happened before, and it will happen again. So the moon can be kind of seen, the real moon, okay? So try to keep up. Sometimes I'll refer to the moon, and I'm talking about the projection. I should actually clarify. That's not on you, that's on me. I'll clarify from now on. So the projection moon is just that. It's plasma. Up there in the sky, it's a projection that comes from the light from the dome up above us, which is a dwelling place in the sky. Because on the other side of that, it's able to be inhabited. Now, it's also possible that that moon, if it's a physical piece of the actual sky, and that's the piece of the sky that breaks, that moon could fall to the earth. That piece of the sky, acting as a huge chunk, craterous chunk of ice, could break off and float down to the world. And obviously it would melt after a time, but the moon could fall and hit the earth. Not the fantasy moon that you learn about in academics. Hey, Jared, good to see you, man. Jared just became a member. He's got a sweet Truman Show icon. I like that. Remember on the Truman Show, the man in the moon, right? All that stuff. So when you hear about this moon visiting the moon and stuff, I'm not one of those people that thinks that it's just, when I hear anything from NASA, it's 100% lies, it's 100% crap and false and make believe, right? I mean, I feel like that would be a little bit hypocritical of me to completely be devoted to make believe and then not believe anything that is presented to me in the quote unquote real world. I believe that there's some truth to these things that they talk about. I believe they can go to the moon, possibly. If the moon is the inside or the underneath portion of our sky and our dome, the moon's the furthest you can go. Like that's as far as you're going to get. Now, if you want to go to Mars and all that other stuff that's allegedly beyond the moon, you're going to have to wait until the sky opens. But that is my theory thus far. So you have a dome, a protective barrier that goes around Mount Meru. Okay. When that protective barrier is up, it will be difficult to get into that island, that circular island that is a crater island, as you can see right behind my shoulder, right? It's one we've been talking about. Let's see. What else did I have? What else? Was that it? I don't even know. Let me jump in the chat. What do you guys think? Hey, Hamed, thank you, man. I super appreciate the support. 13R12AD says, Jay, you should look at some of the work from Vibes of Cosmos. He has a bunch of stuff regarding the moon. Okay, thanks for the suggestion. What do you guys think of the theory of the presentation? Oh, a lot of this is super resonating as I watch Under the Dome, like the actual show Under the Dome. They have a dome. I don't know if you guys have seen that show. You got to check it out though. Like, it's so exciting for me to come to these revelations that I have on my own, or seemingly on my own, like, and then seeing the movie, and then seeing like Under the Dome or these other movies that I do, truth movies and stuff. Sometimes it's kind of mind blowing. Sometimes I'm getting really good at predicting what's going to happen in the movies because I see the patterns, right, that are revealed. So it's kind of mind blowing. In Under the Dome, they have a sky dome, right, and then they have like a little mini dome. And I told myself while I'm watching the show, they were looking for the source of their dome's power, the huge dome. And I'm like, it's going to be in the middle of your town, bro. It's going to be right in the middle of the town, I promise. And then I swear they're like, oh, look, right in the middle of the town. There's another mini dome with a black egg, by the way. See how Mount Meru looks like a little black egg, right? Same thing in the Stephen King show, Under the Dome. Let's see. We got Orimar Dez who says, JayDreamerZ, what are your thoughts on the moon eclipses that just occurred? Like, why does the moon change colors? So I think that the moon always turns red during the eclipses because I think that the light just on the other side of our dome is red, which is why the entire sky will turn red from time to time. And I'm still trying to work out how the eclipses and stuff work, but I'm sure it has to do with optics. So I highly encourage other people. Sometimes it's difficult for me to think that far into this because you have to create a lot of structures in the head. I don't have a lot of like physical visual things to go off of, and I'm a very visual person. So the eclipses and stuff, the moon turns red because it's seeping through some of the red light that is behind it because it's the dome above us, or if it is the dome above us, there's red light behind that. That's the red plasma that is waiting to come into our world. So we see the red. It's revealed from time to time during these blood moons or whatever. And then as far as like the actual changes, the light up there moves in such a way, I haven't figured it out exactly in my mind yet, but it moves in such a way that it goes over that dome. And so some of it it actually cuts off the projection because it's a lack of light. It's not a shadow. I mean, it is a shadow. But it's just a lack of light in that particular area on that dome. And so you can see it as it goes across. And I think that's what they call Rahu. Mars, hey, thank you. Super appreciate it. Awesome. Plasma Prophet says, Jay actually has inspired me for choosing my name. Oh, yes. I think you mentioned that before. I'm honored. Southern Bell Rising says, I was driving. I'll rewatch this. Okay. Suso, what's up, man? Says, I love the presentation. Always interested in your theories. Excellent. Excellent. Where is it on? Not sure what you mean by that. Managed Downside says, JayDreamerZ, if you look at your own face, it's literally a squatter man. 2 eyes, 2 balls, your nose. Yeah. I totally agree with you. It's a squatter, man. Everything is fractal and follows after that pattern. We're created in the image of God. Is how they say that. Totally cool because you're able to listen to you. Right on. Good to see you and have you here. Maria Beckos says, JayDreamerZ, I wondered where the moon was at the time that they claimed to walk on it. Not that I believe that they got to, but it's a question I have. This is a new theory to me. So first and foremost, I am a believer that where it was in a studio. Okay. What you saw on TV, I don't know. Like, okay, I'm pretty sure a lot of things are pretend on TV, and it's fun to pretend if that's your thing. That's fine with me. But I don't believe in that whole thing being a real story. Nah, I'm not on board with that. I believe that there are deeper truths behind what is presented to the public, and that for reasons unknown to most of you, they will not share those truths with you. You have to find them out on your own. Sage says, JayDreamerZ, watch the movie you talked about, something School of Good and Evil. Yeah, I saw that one. The School for Good and Evil. It's those are the two mountains that I was talking about, the anode and the cathode on each side. So in this movie called The School for Good and Evil, or whatever it's called, I don't know what it's called, but it's a cool movie. It's actually really cheesy, but the symbolism's really good in the movie. There's these two castles, which are mountains, which are these tall mountains that we talked about in those legends, right? One's the anode, one's a cathode, and they create an electrical arc between one another. And I believe that those are actually the first lights that come out, too. I think that the first lights to come out are from those two witnesses, that they come before the main light arrives, okay? The main light takes much longer to come out. So first you see Adam and Eve is what they are. First you see the positive and the negative or whatever, and at first they're the same. And they touch and they're vibing and everything, but then they're split by that central beam figure that turns them into male and female respectively. But all the symbol in that movie is all about that. They even have a spiraling tower, like right in the middle of these two castles that are connected by this bridge. It's the arrow, basically. It's the spiraling tower that goes up, and it's insane. It's like right in our faces. Space may be the final frontier, but it's made in a Hollywood basement. I couldn't agree more. Engage. Now, I'm not saying that everything's fake, though. I'm not one of those people that is, oh, everything's fake. NASA is 100% lies, blah, blah, blah. No, they're not. I'm going to say there's truth. There's truth in everything, right? We just have to rework it and figure it out. So I do believe they shoot rockets up at the sky. I do believe that they have tried to crack the dome open on many occasions. Project Dominic. Let's look that up real quick since I'm on the topic. Thanks for reminding me. Project Dominic, Project Fishbowl. Look at this. Hold on. Let me make this. Let me make this bigger. Well, never mind. It's a picture of a nuclear explosion right behind me. Operation Dominic. A series of 31 nuclear test explosions. You need to test it out 31 times. Okay, right. Anyway, that's insane. 31 nuclear test explosions with a total yield of a lot. It's super powerful. Conducted in 1962 by the United States in the Pacific. The test series was scheduled quickly in order to respond to Soviet blah, 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 blah. Let's see. Let me get to the fun stuff. 20 of these nuclear blasts were to test the new weapons designs. New nuclear weapons? They haven't even used any. They already got new ones. This is not for war. I'm telling you right now, okay? These weapons are not for war. These weapons are for blowing up the dome. That's my opinion, okay? 6 of these weapons were to test their effects, which meant they wondered how this would affect the dome, or whatever they're using it on. Several shots to confirm the reliability of existing weapons, and the Thor missile. Interesting name, right? Check this out. In Hinduism, there's a sacred bow. And this arrow that shoots out of it is called... Astra, something. Astra. Damn, I forgot the name of it. But anyways, there's a sacred arrow that shoots out of this bow. And it's called a missile. It's not even called an arrow. Like, originally, it's a missile. It's a column. It's a beam that shoots out. Anyway, the Thor missile, we're reading on Project Dominic or whatever it's called. The Thor missile was also used to lift warheads into near space. Already, there should be hands. All the kids in the class should be raising their hand right now. Near space, I have a question. Like, right? Why? Why are you shooting nuclear bombs into near space? To conduct high altitude nuclear explosion tests. If I told this to one of our ancient ancestors, they would immediately know what they were doing. Because they don't believe in near space. They believe in the firmament of the sky and the things that exist between us and the barrier above. They would be like, they're trying to blow up the sky. They're trying to blow up the dome. The Thor missile was used to lift warheads. That means to shoot explosives into near space, whatever that even is. I don't believe in near space, okay? That's just me. Space. These shots were collectively called Operation Fishbowl. Like a dome, like a bowl, like we've been talking about, the electromagnetic bowl, right? That's why it's called that. Operation Dominic, blah, 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 Cold War, blah, 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 Soviet Union, blah, 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 Bay of Pigs, blah, 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 Kennedy, boring, boring. Okay, well, anyways, I know everything I need to know about it for me. I'm satisfied with that little meal. But yeah, they're trying to blow up the sky, which completely just blows my mind wide open. All right, let me jump back in the chat. What do you guys have to say about that? Manage downside. Hold up. Let me bring this back up here. Well, actually, I don't need to screen share right now. Says JayDreamerZ, do you think that the plasma, aka God, is monad or demiurge? What are your thoughts on God? Is he real? Like I say, is he real, like a real being, or just plasma energy? What do you mean just? Just plasma energy? Okay. Do you just have a spirit inside of your body? Right? Plasma is a monad. I'm not sure what a monad is. I have to look that up once more. Demiurge. My thoughts on God. I don't know. God, that's kind of vague, right? There are many gods, and everything is an expression of the ultimate God, is my thought, basically. I don't have the same concept of God as most of you. I will tell you that right now. Okay. My concept of God is that my God includes all of your gods. So, yes. Anyways, it's all connected. It's the law of one, basically. That everything is a piece of the ultimate entity known as God, that is omni-everything. Most people's gods I have found are not omni-everything. They're limited. They just claim to be omni-everything until they're held up to questioning. Sage says, JayDreamerZ, where is the movie Under the Dome? I'm watching it because I had to pay for it on Amazon. Actually, no, that's not true. I signed up for like a free, what is it? A free tryout of like Paramount. Yeah, it was Paramount. That's right. Because every time this show starts, it shows the Paramount logo. And I'm watching it with my son, right? So I go, brought to you by Mount Meru. Every single time that show starts, it shows Paramount with the stars and the dome on it and everything. I'm like, brought to you by Mount Meru. Pretty soon we both start saying it. But anyways, you can watch it for free if you sign up for like the free trial. So I think I've got 2 more days to finish binge watching so I can cancel that out. Flat Earth Norseman says, JayDreamerZ, I had to rewatch 2018 Flat Earth Conference. You were super chilling in the crowd. That's right, I was. I did not speak or anything. I was just kind of showing up and watching. It was interesting, I'll tell you that much. It was very interesting. I saw Logan Paul. Lame. Not impressed. Saw him in the bathroom acting like a stupid jock. Anyway, yeah. Let's see. Thor missile. Mars Pop says the Thor missile could not compare to the real plasma. Yeah, absolutely, right? See, I believe that they're trying to regulate the apocalypse so that basically what they want to do is let some pressure out so that they can continue to rule without the world being destroyed. Because if the world's destroyed, it's an even playing field. So I think that they try to let pressure out, or that they're trying to regulate and basically in turn control the apocalypse itself, right? I don't think they're going to do it. I'm pretty sure they can't do it. They can try as they might. They can try as they might, but I don't think they're going to do it. And the next one to happen is going to be huge too. Orimar Dez says, JayDreamerZ, if they succeeded to blow up the dome, what would their next step be? If they succeeded to blow up the dome, they would immediately get sucked out into space. So their next step would be navigation through space, basically. It makes a hole and it all goes crazy, or what? Yes, it depressurizes. So if you want to know more about it, you can find out all of these things on the smaller scale. So just look up rapid depressurization and learn about that. That's something I would recommend. Learn about what happens when something depressurizes rapidly and how that affects the human body and the atmosphere and stuff. Brought to you by Mount Meru. I just like saying that. That's so funny. Thank you, Alex. New Jersey Jeep Girl inside of a shark. What is that? Oh my God. Is that Jaws? Hey, Cynthia Mack. Welcome to my channel. New Jersey Jeep Girl says, Jay, that's what I think comets are. Pressure release holes from powerful lasers or something. I actually have a similar theory. I like where you're going with that. Right? They definitely look like they're up there, a part of the dome, moving just like the stars move across the sky or whatever, and they look like jets that are being released. I totally agree. There's my website for you to check it out. Thank you, Sage. Appreciate you. Do check out my website too. I'm sometimes I can be a little too humble for my own good. This is my job. So I make money when you guys watch. I make money whenever I do videos. I make money whenever people sign up for my website. I make money whenever I sell my book. And I'm not a very business money oriented kind of person. I'd rather just have freedom and live my life and not have to worry about any of that kind of drama. But every time that you guys do something like that, you're supporting me. You're supporting my family. You're supporting my work. You keep the lights on in my house and the bills paid and gas in my car tank and stuff, you know. Not all YouTubers are rich. I'm a single dad that lives paycheck to paycheck, and I make just enough to do what I love doing, which is all of this for all of you. So thank you. Thanks for checking out all my stuff. Thanks for all your support. Even if you don't, buy anything or sign up or subscribe or become a member, hitting the thumbs up super helps. Just watching super helps. Thanks for being here. You being here is contributing to my personal life. So at the very least, regardless of who you are and what you believe in, you're appreciated by me. Sincerely. The Burger Prophet says, so would they be trying to force start the plasma apocalypse by blowing up the dome? Yeah, for sure. If you blow up the dome, well, I don't know. Here's the thing. Let's examine that, right? Even if you were to blow up the dome, if that electromagnetic barrier is still there, you're not going to go anywhere, right? That electromagnetic, it's not the physical, you know what? I take my words back. It's not the physical dome. If they blew up the physical dome, there would still be an electromagnetic barrier. So naturally, if you would like to leave through the physical opening, you need to bypass the spiritual barrier or the electromagnetic barrier that is still there, which means you have to have figured out how to pass through that energetic barrier, which is, according to tradition, the strongest energetic barrier in existence in our realm. Anne Marie Penton, good to see you. I always appreciate the work that you give for free. Hey, you're super welcome. Good to see you. I always think that you're slurping on a Frosty in that picture. I can barely see what it is, but in my mind, it's like a Frosty or a Dairy Queen cup or something. I can't tell. It's so interesting for me to get to know you guys by your little names that you give yourselves and your tiny little pictures, like Sage, right? Multipass. Boom. Every time I'm thinking about the multipass. I love it. All right, let me jump back in. What else we got? Linda says, I'm glad you got your Truth in Movies restored. Oh, I know, right? God, that frustrated the heck out of me. Mostly because when I first release something, that's when it gets the most views. So unfortunately, my Everything Everywhere All at Once movie, Truth in Movie segment, doesn't have as many views as I was hoping. And it's not just about views or whatever, but there's a lot of good information in that one. And I was really excited about it. And I had a little eye thing right there that was fun. Anyways, yes, I'm super stoked. They gave me a copyright strike for that. It was all a bunch of garbage. So their copyright strike got thrown out and I got my movie returned to me. But I can't debut it. The debut is gone, you know. So it is up. If you want to watch Everything Everywhere All at Once, my review, my esoteric Truth in Movies review of that movie, go check it out. Because it's awesome. And I do like to see you guys enjoy the Truth in Movies segment. Right now I'm watching Under the Dome. I'm going to finish that tonight because wow, it's blowing my mind. Pink stars are falling in lines. Pink stars are falling. Pink stars are falling in lines. I love that whole thing, man. The whole thing is good. I just like Stephen King. He's the man. What else? Anything else in the chat? Are we about to go? Let's see. Anne-Marie Penton. It's a personal mug that says, speak up. Okay, I don't know what you're talking about. Oh, that's your cup. Oh, I see. Your little Dairy Queen cup? Okay. Is a personal mug that says, speak up on the plane of existence. I'm very careful about what words I use on my channel. I'm sure you guys have picked up on that, right? What else? Alex says, I was so happy to see you get the video back. Can you do it as a re-premiere? No. If I do it again, it's going to get flagged again, I'm sure, for copyright infringement. They'll just keep flagging it because it's not a human. It's not a human being that does that. It's just an algorithm. Everybody knows that, right? So we try to cheat the algorithm. We try to fake it. We try to bypass it. We find shortcuts. And by we, I mean I do. In case you haven't noticed that, right? Here's the cool thing though, I'm going to be able to use copyrighted music on my channel as long as I have to like pay a little bit and then I can use, basically I buy the song from the artist so that I buy the rights to use it on my presentation, which is pretty cool because I've got there's so many good songs I want to that match the things that I talk about, you know, and I've always wanted to use them. The monoliths, good one. That's an interesting one. The monarch will be crowned. Oh yeah, remember in Under the Dome they say the monarch will be crowned, and then the monarch, spoiler alert. You notice I don't do spoiler alerts too. I respect your intelligence enough when I'm doing a Truth in Movies that has the title in the description, in the title of the thing. It's right there on the screen. I respect your intelligence enough to not have to dumb you down by saying spoiler alert, all cheesy like every other YouTube channel. Okay, if you see the thumbnail is from the movie and the title is from the movie and the description is from the movie, and you're just some random person that pops in and you still didn't read the title of the movie right there on the screen, right next to me, next to my little popcorn, that's on you. Like, I don't know what else to say, but I'm not saying spoiler alert, okay, anymore, ever again, okay? I'm all about spoiling the movie, actually. I would like to spoil the movie for everybody. I want you to know what it is really about. And in order to do that, we have to talk about the surface level, which is the story of the movie or whatever. So, anyway. I have all kinds of issues with like how other YouTubers do things, but I'm appreciative. I learn a lot about what I don't want to do. You know what I mean? Like, for example, I'm getting off topic now, but let's just hang out for a bit. Like, for example, clickbaity titles. I unsubscribed from some popular channel earlier today just because they had this stupid clickbait title. It says, watch this before they take it down. Nah, you know what? You just lost me, bro. Like, that's evil. Okay? That's an evil tactic. Okay? You're fighting fire with fire. And at that point in time, it's only about views. It's only about money. You know what I mean? And I have tried out the clickbaity title thing like once or twice in my past, you know, over like the 500 videos that I've put out. And work or didn't work, it made me feel bad. I'm going to tell you that. It made me sick to my stomach. I felt bad. I don't like clickbaity stuff. I can't stand that. If you do that, I don't like it. I also don't like it whenever people take like the best thing that they want to talk about, which could be referenced in like a minute or 30 seconds. And then they give you all this empty filler and they're like, oh, I promise I will talk about that. And then you have to skip all the way through. You know what I mean? That just messes up your own algorithm, just so you know that, whatever YouTubers are watching, that screws your algorithm up because the algorithm sees when people skip in your video. They see when people are not watching. So you're not getting your full income, just so you know. But I didn't want to turn this into a complaint session about how I feel about other YouTubers. Hey, let them be them. I'm learning a lot. I like to retain my sense of individuality and what makes me JayDreamerZ and not just another YouTube channel. All right, cool. Well, I think we're good now. So if I would like to make a request from all of you who are watching, whether you're a future person or live in the chat right now, the image that I put up earlier, I want to share this with you. Where did it go? Where do you go, my lovely? All right, so here's the image, right? All these images that I've been sharing with you, if you use these in some sort of a model or anything like that, touch base with me because I'm not very mechanical. I've been working on being more of a mechanical thinker and more mathematically inclined and stuff. I just don't like it. Okay. I'm just being honest. I don't like putting together models and all this kind of stuff. But I need to, because I don't see anyone else. My path hasn't led me to where others are putting up similar images as the ones that I'm sharing with you now. So if you can use these models and expound upon the ideas that I just am barely touching the surface of, that would be valuable to me. I would find it valuable. I would totally watch your channel. You know what I mean? There's only a couple of channels that are more mechanical and get into like the plasma physics and stuff behind these concepts. And it takes a lot of work on my part to refigure it out in a way that makes sense to me and subsequently in a way that will make sense to my audience, because like attracts like. So if you do that, please tag me in the video. Let me know. I'll check it out. It'll pop up on my side. Scooby-doo-ba-doo-ba-doo-boop. Everybody wants to talk at the end. Okay. Another piano session. I play the piano every day. I have a keyboard here in my apartment. And I teach my son. I give my son piano lessons. That's a lot of fun too. Excuse me. All right, cool. Well, I don't want to really drag this on any longer. Do leave some comments. Let other people know what you think. If you want to make a video, you have my permission. Tag me in the video, please, so that I'll see it eventually, and I'll check it out. Sweet. All right, cool. Well, I hate saying goodbye, but I'm going to. Until next time, I'm JayDreamerZ saying good vibes and goodbye.
I'll try so hard to fade away. I'll try so hard to fade away.
Okay, that was actually my bad. I was I was playing. I still had the credits up from October, so I just fixed it real quick. So let's try that again. Until next time, I'm JayDreamerZ saying good vibes and goodbye.
So hard
So cheesy.
to fade away. I'll try so hard to fade away, but something's forcing me to stay. It'd be easier for me if I turn away to flee. Oh, but there's something holding on, the way of being long gone. There's so many ways to escape, but I guess it's time to wake up, time to wake up. Far too many ways to escape, but I guess it's time to wake up, time to wake up. Time to wake up, time to wake up, baby. Time to wake up, time to wake up. Time to wake up, time to wake up, baby. Time to wake up, time to wake up. I know I should have done this, should have quit this long ago. Can't stand another heartbreak, but it's time to let it go. It'd be easier for me if I turn away to flee. Oh, but there's something holding on, the way of being long gone. There's so many ways to escape, but I guess it's time to wake up, time to wake up. Far too many ways to escape, but I guess it's time to wake up, time to wake up. Time to wake up, time to wake up, baby. Time to wake up, time to wake up. Time to wake up, time to wake up, baby. Time to wake up, time to wake up. There's so many ways to escape, but I guess it's time to wake up, time to wake up. Far too many ways to escape, but I guess it's time to wake up, time to wake up. Time to wake up, time to wake up, baby. Time to wake up, time to wake up. Time to wake up, time to wake up, baby. Time to wake up, time to wake up.
For you in this vast multiverse.
But your powers to rise.